Do you believe there's a way to remember everything for a long time, without even trying? No more forcing yourself to memorize, no staying up late, no endless notes, yet your brain still remembers everything like a super storage machine. The truth is, your brain doesn't need effort to remember, it just needs the right method. And today I'm going to reveal the secret behind those super memory people, how they make information stick permanently without stress or struggle. Watch until the end because in just 1 minute from now, you'll never worry about forgetting again. The brain is a fascinating and complex organ designed not just to think but to remember. However, most people misunderstand how memory truly works. They assume that remembering things for a long time requires endless repetition or intense focus, but in reality, the process is far more natural. To understand how to remember effortlessly, we first need to explore how the brain handles information, how it decides what to keep and what to forget. When you learn something new, your brain encodes that information in the short-term memory first. Think of it as a temporary workspace, where details are held for a few seconds or minutes. But this memory is fragile. If you don't interact with the information in some way, it fades quickly. To move that knowledge into long-term storage, where it can stay for months or even years, your brain needs to find meaning and connection. That's why random facts disappear, but emotional moments, stories, or personal experiences stay vivid. The brain prioritizes what matters emotionally and contextually, not what's simply repeated. So how do we use this to our advantage? The key is engagement. When you understand and connect with something, neurons in your brain fire together, forming networks. The more meaningful or visual the connection, the stronger the network becomes. Instead of memorizing words, imagine images, link them with emotions, or relate them to real-life experiences. For example, if you want to remember the French word pomme, apple, don't just repeat it. Imagine holding a bright red apple in your hand, smelling its sweetness, and hearing someone say pomme. You've now connected sound, sight, and emotion, making the memory hard to forget. Science backs this up through a concept called neural plasticity, which refers to the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. Every time you recall or interact with information, you strengthen the neural pathways related to it. But if you cram or force learning without understanding, those connections remain weak. That's why stress and over-effort often backfire. They activate the brain's fear circuits, which interfere with learning. The secret to remembering easily isn't working harder. It's working with how your brain naturally wants to remember. Another important aspect is attention. The human brain is bombarded with thousands of stimuli every minute, but it only remembers what you pay attention to. Focus acts like a filter, telling your brain, this is important. Keep it. When you learn in a distracted state, scrolling, multitasking, or forcing yourself through boredom, your attention is divided, and memory retention drops dramatically. But when you are fully engaged, even a short study session can produce lasting memories. It's not the duration that counts, but the depth of focus. Interestingly, emotion acts as the glue that binds memory. That's why you remember your happiest moments, your failures, or the day you met someone special. The amygdala, the brain's emotional center, works closely with the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory formation. When emotion is present, the brain marks the information as important for survival and keeps it. So, one of the most effortless ways to remember something is to find or create an emotional link to it. In short, long-term memory isn't about force or endless review. It's about turning information into meaningful, emotional, and sensory-rich experiences. By learning how to align with the brain's natural memory system, through emotion, focus, and association, you'll find that remembering things for years doesn't require effort at all. It just requires understanding how the brain loves to learn. One of the most powerful yet underrated ways to remember information effortlessly is through association. The human brain thrives on patterns and connections. It doesn't memorize in isolation. When we try to remember random facts or meaningless data, our mind quickly discards them because they lack context. But when we connect new information with something we already know, an image, a sound, a feeling, or even a story, we create a mental bridge that makes recall almost automatic. Think about it this way. Your brain is like a vast network of roads. Each piece of knowledge is a city, and associations are the highways linking them together. The more roads you build, the easier it becomes to travel, or in this case, to retrieve memories. For example, imagine you're trying to remember someone's name, Lily. Instead of repeating Lily, Lily, Lily in your head, imagine her standing in a garden full of lilies, the scent of the flowers all around. You've now created a vivid emotional link that your brain can easily retrieve later. That's the magic of associative thinking. It transforms abstract data into experiences your mind loves to store. This method is the foundation behind many ancient and modern memory systems, from the memory palace technique to modern mnemonic devices. In a memory palace, you visualize a familiar place, your home, for instance, and assign pieces of information to different rooms or objects. When you want to recall something, you simply walk through your mental space, picking up each memory where you left it. This works because the brain's spatial memory is incredibly strong. It evolved to remember locations for survival, and you can use that instinct to store information more naturally. But association isn't just about visual imagery. It's also about emotion, rhythm, and meaning. You can create associations through music, like how you never forget song lyrics, through stories, how myths and parables endure for centuries, or through humor, because laughter triggers dopamine, which enhances memory. The key is to make the brain care about what it's learning. When information becomes personal, funny, emotional, or surprising, it becomes memorable. The most effortless learners, from polyglots to memory champions, don't memorize more than others. They simply connect better. For instance, a language learner doesn't just memorize vocabulary lists. They build connections. They link words with visuals, emotions, or personal relevance. If the word agua, Spanish for water, is tied to the feeling of thirst or the image of a clear stream, it sticks far better than rote repetition ever could. Association also allows for creativity and fun. You can turn studying into a game, exaggerate images, make absurd connections, or even turn facts into mini-stories. The more unusual or humorous the link, the more your brain loves it. That's why we often remember funny memes or catchy jingles more easily than important facts. They trigger emotion and surprise, two of the brain's favorite ingredients. In the end, the art of association is not about forcing yourself to memorize. It's about allowing your imagination to work. Your brain naturally loves to play, visualize, and connect ideas. When you lean into that instinct, memory stops being a struggle and becomes something organic and enjoyable. The best learners don't fight their minds. They use them the way they were designed to work, through patterns, images, and stories that make information come alive. There's a surprising truth about memory that most people overlook. Sometimes the best way to remember is to stop trying so hard. Rest, sleep, and downtime aren't just breaks from learning. They are part of the learning itself. Your brain doesn't shut off when you sleep or relax. In fact, it becomes incredibly active, sorting, processing, and strengthening the memories you've built throughout the day. Understanding this process can completely transform how you study, work, or even think. When you're awake, your brain is in input mode. It's constantly taking in information, sounds, sights, emotions, lessons, and temporarily storing them in short-term memory. But this short-term storage is like a clipboard. It can only hold so much before it overflows. That's where rest comes in. During sleep, particularly deep sleep and REM cycles, the hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, replays the events and information you've experienced. It literally reactivates the same neural pathways that fired during learning, strengthening them and transferring data into long-term storage. This process is called memory consolidation, and it's the reason why you often wake up suddenly remembering something you struggled with the night before. Science shows that people who study and then sleep perform far better than those who cram all night. Even short naps have been proven to improve recall, creativity, and focus. The brain uses this downtime to clean house, removing unnecessary information while reinforcing the valuable stuff. Think of it as your brain's automatic sorting system, but it only runs when you rest. That's why exhaustion, stress, and sleep deprivation don't just make you tired. They literally block your ability to remember. Another powerful way to work with your brain's natural rhythm is through spaced repetition, reviewing information at increasing intervals instead of all at once. When you revisit knowledge after short breaks, your brain perceives it as important, and the memory becomes more stable each time. This principle explains why a little review every few days is exponentially more effective than one long study session. You're giving your brain multiple chances to strengthen those neural pathways without overwhelming them. Equally important is the idea of active rest, moments of relaxation that still keep your mind engaged in gentle, reflective ways. Taking a walk, listening to music, or simply daydreaming allows your subconscious to make connections that conscious effort can't. Many inventors, writers, and thinkers, from Einstein to Edison, relied on these moments of relaxed focus. They understood that creativity and memory thrive when the mind is calm. To remember effortlessly, you must learn to respect your brain's natural cycles. Constant pressure and stress signal to your brain that it's under threat, activating the amygdala and suppressing the hippocampus, the very area responsible for forming memories. In contrast, rest and positive emotions activate dopamine and serotonin, which enhance both motivation and recall. The takeaway is simple but profound. The less you fight your brain's natural rhythm, the more it helps you. Rest isn't laziness. It's the secret ingredient of productivity. Sleep isn't lost time. It's when learning truly happens. When you combine active study with intentional pauses, your brain does the heavy lifting for you. You remember more, understand deeper, and retain longer, all without the exhausting effort of constant repetition. So next time you're tempted to push through fatigue, remind yourself that memory doesn't thrive on struggle. It thrives on rhythm. Learn, rest, recall, repeat. Let your brain work with you, not against you, and you'll discover that remembering for life can be as natural as breathing. Memory is not just a function of logic. It's deeply tied to emotion. Every unforgettable moment in your life has something in common. It made you feel something. Whether it was joy, excitement, fear, or even embarrassment, those emotions burned the experience into your mind. That's why you can recall the details of your happiest birthday, your first success, or even a painful mistake years later. The secret to remembering effortlessly lies in understanding that emotion is the fuel of memory. If you want to make learning last, you must make it emotional. When you attach feelings to information, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine, which act as neural glue. They make synaptic connections stronger, turning simple data into vivid, long-lasting memories. This process is handled by two key brain structures: the amygdala, which processes emotion, and the hippocampus, which forms memories. When the two work together, learning becomes not just mental but experiential. In other words, your brain doesn't just record facts, it records how those facts made you feel. That's why passion and curiosity are far more effective than discipline alone. If you genuinely care about what you're learning, your brain naturally prioritizes it. For example, think about how easily you remember the lyrics of a song you love. You don't study them, you feel them. But when you try to memorize something dull, it slips away no matter how many times you repeat it. The difference isn't intelligence or effort. It's emotional engagement. To make learning emotional, you don't need to force passion. You need to create meaning. Start by asking, why does this matter to me? Connect the information to your goals, your dreams, or even your identity. If you're learning about communication, think about how mastering it could help you build better relationships or achieve success. If you're studying a new language, imagine yourself confidently speaking with locals in another country. The stronger the emotional link, the easier the memory sticks. Another way to activate emotion is through sensory experience. Color, sound, and movement all enhance recall because they engage multiple parts of the brain at once. Listening to instrumental music while studying, using color-coded notes, or visualizing abstract ideas as vivid images can turn learning into an emotional experience. It's the same reason children learn faster through play. Their brains are fully immersed and emotionally alive. You can also make learning social. Share what you learn with others, teach a friend, or discuss your ideas passionately. When you express information with enthusiasm, you reinforce your own understanding. The act of teaching is emotional by nature. It triggers confidence, purpose, and satisfaction, all of which amplify memory. The truth is, you don't need to force yourself to remember what you love. Your brain does it automatically. The challenge, then, is not to memorize harder, but to make what you learn meaningful and emotionally engaging. Once you connect feeling with fact, you'll find that effort fades and memory becomes natural. In the end, knowledge that touches the heart stays in the mind. The greatest learners, speakers, and creators understand this. They don't just absorb information, they experience it. So if you want to remember anything for life, don't just study with your mind. Study with your heart. In the modern world, remembering things no longer means sitting with piles of notes or endless repetition. With the right habits and tools, you can train your brain to retain information naturally, even without trying too hard. Technology, when used wisely, can amplify your memory power, while a few simple daily habits can make learning feel effortless. The key is to design an environment and routine that works with your brain instead of against it. Let's start with digital tools. Apps like Anki, Notion, and RemNote are powerful because they're built around how memory truly works. For example, Anki uses spaced repetition, which automatically reminds you to review information right before you're likely to forget it. This takes advantage of the brain's forgetting curve, ensuring that each review session reinforces the memory more strongly. The result? You remember longer with far less time and effort. Notion, on the other hand, is excellent for organizing knowledge visually. Combining notes, images, and links in one place creates contextual learning that your brain finds easier to recall. Another powerful technique is mind mapping. Instead of writing notes linearly, you organize information like a tree, with ideas branching out from a central topic. This visual structure mirrors the way your brain stores data, through networks and connections. Seeing how concepts relate to each other triggers associative memory, making recall faster and more natural. Tools like XMind or Miro can help you create these maps digitally, but you can also draw them by hand for an even deeper connection. However, technology alone isn't enough. The way you manage your environment and habits plays a huge role in how well you remember. The brain craves clarity and focus, yet most of us live surrounded by distractions. Notifications, background noise, and constant multitasking scatter your attention, making memory formation harder. To counter this, create a distraction-free zone when you learn. Silence unnecessary alerts, keep your workspace clean, and use ambient music or nature sounds to stay calm and centered. Remember, memory thrives in peace, not chaos. Small daily habits can also make a massive difference. Writing down what you've learned at the end of the day, summarizing key points in your own words, or explaining a topic to someone else are powerful retention boosters. When you teach or restate something, your brain reorganizes the knowledge into your own mental framework, which strengthens long-term storage. Even a 5-minute reflection after studying, simply asking yourself, "What did I really learn today?" signals your brain to treat that information as important. Don't underestimate the power of the body either. Physical movement, hydration, and proper nutrition directly impact memory. Regular exercise increases blood flow to the brain, supporting growth of new neural connections. Foods rich in omega-3s, antioxidants, and vitamins, like blueberries, walnuts, and salmon, literally nourish memory function. Likewise, staying hydrated improves concentration and cognitive speed, small details that make big differences over time. Finally, the most effective learners combine all these tools with a mindset of curiosity. They don't see technology as a crutch, but as an extension of their own intelligence. They use reminders, digital flashcards, and visual notes not to replace memory, but to train it. They know that effortless remembering isn't about having a perfect brain. It's about creating systems that make remembering automatic. So build your environment with intention. Choose tools that align with your natural thinking style and keep your mind open and curious. When your digital habits, physical health, and emotional engagement work together, remembering becomes something that happens without struggle. It becomes a flow, a partnership between your brain and the world around you. Now you understand. The problem isn't that you have a weak memory. It's that you haven't been using your brain the way it naturally remembers best. Once you activate the automatic memory switch I just showed you, every fact, every lesson, every detail will lock itself into your mind effortlessly. And when remembering becomes easy, you'll have more time to create, grow, and live freely. Try it today. And when you notice your memory improving in just a few days, come back and comment, "I did it." Because a powerful memory isn't a talent you're born with. It's a skill you just mastered.